The restaurant was bright with soft daytime light filtering through wide windows, yet the moment felt strangely heavy, like the air itself was holding its breath. At a small table near the center, a man sat alone, straight-backed, steady, unaware that two so-called friends were snickering from across the room. He wasn't here for fun. He wasn't here for games. He was here because he believed in trying, even when life had made trying feel pointless. And he had no idea that the blind date they arranged for him wasn't meant to help him move on, but to humiliate him. And they had no idea that the person they matched him with, a young woman walking nervously toward the table, with her hands clasped tightly together, carried battles far deeper than anything they had considered. By the end of the afternoon, the joke wouldn't be a joke anymore. It would be something that would break them and heal them in ways none of them expected. If you believe in second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kendora Life. Your support helps these powerful stories reach more hearts. The man's name was Ronan Vale, a 33-year-old mechanic with tired eyes and shoulders that always seemed prepared to carry more weight than they should. Most people knew him as the quiet, single dad who spent half his life under car hoods and the other half raising his 8-year-old son, Kian. What they didn't see was the fracture inside him, the one left behind after his wife's sudden passing 2 years earlier. She had been his anchor, his peace, his reminder that he deserved joy. Without her, he had retreated into a world of silence and routine, speaking only when necessary and giving the best of himself only to his son. His co-workers, Liam and Brody, didn't understand the depth of that hurt. They thought Ronan was just too serious, too closed off, too unwilling to step back into the dating world. And in their twisted attempt at a push, they set up a blind date for him without telling him who she was, and without telling her what their intentions truly were. Her name was Soraya Wynn, a 29-year-old art teacher with a calm presence and an aura of quiet resilience. She was deaf, something she never hid, but also something she was tired of being judged for. She longed for connection, but most dates treated her like a project, a novelty, or someone to pity. So when a cheerful message popped up saying a kind, thoughtful single dad wanted to meet her, she said yes. She hoped, just maybe, this time would be different. Liam and Brody watched from a nearby table, their phones ready, their expressions smug. They expected Ronan to get flustered. They expected Soraya to feel awkward. They expected entertainment. They couldn't have been more wrong. As soon as Soraya sat down, Ronan noticed her hands trembling slightly. He offered a gentle smile, small but sincere, and nodded to greet her. She smiled back, reached for her small tablet, and typed a message that she placed facing him. "Hi, I'm Soraya. I'm deaf, so I use this to communicate unless someone knows sign language." Ronan read it and unexpectedly froze, not out of discomfort, not out of confusion, but out of memory. His wife, Taryn, had been born into a family with 2 deaf siblings. To speak with them, Ronan had learned sign language early in their marriage. He hadn't used it often since she passed, but it lived in his hands, in his bones, as naturally as breathing. Slowly, he lifted his hands and signed, "It's nice to meet you, Soraya." She gasped, softly, not loudly, just a tiny rush of breath. Her eyes widened, brightening under the warm daylight streaming from above. Her hands fluttered for a moment, nervous and hopeful all at once, before signing back, "You know sign language." Ronan nodded, a faint shadow passing over his face, as he explained with his hands, "My wife's siblings are deaf. I learned because I wanted us to be a family without barriers." The moment his fingers shaped the word wife, Liam and Brody snorted in the background, nudging each other, but Ronan wasn't paying attention to them. He didn't know this date was arranged with cruelty. He didn't know Soraya had been brought here under false pretenses. He only knew that across from him sat a woman who deserved respect. But Soraya saw the 2 men laughing. She wasn't naive. She understood their glances, their whispering, the mocking way they mimicked Ronan's seriousness. Something tightened in her stomach. Had she been played? Had he? Her face fell, and Ronan immediately noticed. His hands moved again, steady and patient. "Are you okay?" Soraya hesitated before signing back. "Did you know about this date? Was this your idea?" When Ronan shook his head, her chest tightened in both relief and worry. She didn't want to be part of a joke. She didn't want to be someone's entertainment. Ronan followed her gaze. Only then did he see Liam's phone held up, recording. His jaw tightened. He turned back to Soraya, his expression soft but resolute, and signed, "If you want to leave, I'll walk you out. If you stay, I promise I'm here for the right reasons. Whatever they planned, it ends now." Soraya stared at him, reading not just his hands, but his sincerity, his posture, his eyes. She saw the gentleness he tried to hide, She saw the exhaustion life had carved into him, and she saw that he was just as blindsided as she was. She signed, "Let's stay," but not for them, for us. Ronan nodded. The meal began quietly, but it didn't stay quiet for long. As the daylight filled the restaurant, warming the white tablecloths and gleaming off the wine glasses, Ronan and Soraya found themselves talking not with spoken words, but with hands that moved with growing comfort and emotion. They shared stories, they shared hurts, they shared small, fragile hopes. Soraya told him about her art students, how she used drawing and signing together to help them express emotions they didn't know how to say. Ronan told her about Kian, how his son had been his entire world since the day he took his first step. He explained how hard parenting alone had been, how every day felt like balancing hope and fear. Soraya listened with her eyes, her heart softening with every sign. She admired the way Ronan spoke about his son, as if love was the strongest language he knew. But the real breaking point came halfway through the lunch. Soraya asked him, "Does your son know sign language too?" Ronan nodded. Then he lowered his eyes slightly, signing slowly. He learned because he wanted to speak to his aunt and uncle. After my wife passed, he stopped signing for a while. Too many memories. But lately he's been trying again. He told me he wants to talk to more people like them. He doesn't even realize how kind he is. Soraya's throat tightened. Her chest warmed. She felt something she hadn't felt in years, possibility. But at that exact moment, a loud burst of laughter erupted from the next table. Liam and Brody were mocking their signs crudely, horribly, making exaggerated gestures and laughing like children. Soraya froze. Ronan didn't. For the first time in 2 years, something inside him snapped into place. Not anger, clarity. With calm, unwavering steps, he stood, walked toward their table, and gently but firmly took the phone from Brody's hand, placing it face down on their plates. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't curse. He didn't make a scene. He simply signed slowly, clearly so Soraya would understand too, disrespecting someone for how they communicate doesn't make you superior, it makes you small. And if you ever treat her or anyone like that again, you lose the right to call yourselves my friends. The restaurant fell silent. Liam and Brody stared stunned, not by anger but by the depth of Ronan's conviction, by the shift in him, by the realization that their joke had never been funny. They had played with two hearts already healing from their own battles, and now they were the ones exposed. When Ronan sat back down, Soraya blinked several times to hold in tears. Her hands trembled slightly as she signed. "No one has ever stood up for me like that. Not gently, not respectfully." Ronan smiled faintly, eyes warm. "You deserved more from the moment you walked in." The rest of the lunch flowed effortlessly. Light conversation, honest emotions, shared pain, shared healing. Ronan found himself smiling more than he had in years. Soraya found herself feeling seen not as a novelty, but as a woman. When the meal ended, Ronan walked her to the exit under the soft afternoon sky. The sun lit her hair as she turned to him, signing hesitantly, "Can I meet your son someday?" "Only if you want. Only if it's not too soon." Ronan paused, then nodded. "I think he'd like you. A lot." Then, more softly, "I do too." Soraya's smile stretched slowly, warm as daylight. Inside, at the table, Liam and Brody sat silently, their jokes evaporated, replaced by a heaviness they couldn't shake. They had watched Ronan protect someone he barely knew with more kindness than they had shown him in years. They wiped their eyes before anyone could see, and for the first time they understood the depth of the man they once took lightly. If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us continue sharing meaningful stories. Special request: please comment. Respect speaks louder than words. If this story reached you today, Ronan and Soraya walked out together, two souls who didn't expect healing, but found it anyway in a place where they were supposed to be broken. And as the daylight wrapped around them, a new beginning quietly took shape, one built not on jokes or cruelty, but on understanding, courage, and the simple language of kindness.